So the Benchmade made this brand new knife. It's called the Redoubt, and I finally got my hands on it. I want to tell you if you should actually get this and the plus and minus of owning this specific knife. Apart from Benchmade making overpriced knives, sometimes they make pretty good knives. This is the box that it comes with. There was a few things about this box I actually dislike. This is a brand new box. Now the box itself, you can easily put your fingerprints on here. It's like an FBI thing. Once you touch it, your fingerprints will go all over this thing, and it's ridiculous in that kind of a sense of a way. In a good way, if somebody ever steals your specific knife, you're going to have the evidence right on here. Now, another thing about this is a very interesting material that they're using. They have some kind of like a sponge-like material right over here, and on the bottom you can actually take it out. You can't take out the top one. The sponge itself is a weird material, and the weird thing about this is that it does hold its shape over time, and it just becomes what it used to be. It's really weird, but you put the knife right on here and it just sinks and it contours right into this space, and then it goes back to its original shape. Go figure what this thing actually is. It's just weird, but it is interesting as well. Now, the knife itself is the main selling point of why you're getting the Benchmade. The presentation box, put that aside, the knife is pretty solid. But we have a problem with it, and the biggest problem I have with this specific knife is the following. The knife itself is really nice looking, but the issue I have, the biggest issue with this knife is not the looks or neither anything else in specific about the knife itself. So for example, we have the regular edge and we have the surrogate edge right in the knife. We also have a deep carry clip included as well. The problem I have with this specific knife is not the access lock, but how it actually holding. And as you touch it, we have two different interesting surfaces to this. There is the top surface right here, which is, I thought would be really cool. I thought it's going to be more grippy. I also thought it's going to be rubberized. It's none of those. The material itself is hard plastic. Now on the top it doesn't really bug me. It's kind of massaging my hand, which is kind of good. But on the bottom we have those teeth mark over here, and I have no idea why they decided to put this in. This is probably the worst idea in this knife that I ever seen in any knife, period. Now here's why. So first of all, you can easily open and close this, but the problem runs very simple. As you put your hand over here and you're gripping this knife, it starts to hold. Now, I thought the other reviewer who made a review this on YouTube was just joking around, or pretty much just underestimating or telling you, well, I don't like this thing he was saying. I thought, well, maybe he was, you know, somebody who doesn't really care about the knife itself. And I thought that he just was, you know, a weak dude. That's not the case here. This just holds, just the way it's designed over here, and there is this space in between that makes it even worse. So not only when you put your hand over here, yes, it's supposed to have this space, but the reason why it makes it worse is that we have those lines over here, and then we have this space in between them. So it makes it super sharp. As you touch this and you press on it, it keeps on digging into your skin, and it feels not good, especially if you're doing heavy duty with this specific knife. Now, it also makes it worse because if you're holding this knife, it makes you less want to hold this specific end, and therefore it makes it just a dangerous combination over here. You're not holding the knife secure enough for you to do EDC use with it. That being said, that's probably the major and the biggest issue with this knife itself. It does have an access lock. The knife itself is made out of super high quality material. We have the CPM D2 over here, which is standard state-of-the-art material we have in the knife itself, and the breakout is just amazing, the looks all together. Now if you do plan to use this with gloves, this is not going to bug you at all. In fact, if you're working heavy duty with tools and you're using special protection when you're, regardless, taking those knives and using them all together, then it makes no difference. But other than that, it's gonna really hurt, and not in a good way. So make sure you know exactly the deal, what you're getting yourself into. That being said, it has a very solid cutting surface, and it's a very solid knife altogether. It's a little bit overpriced in my opinion, even if you get it on a discount. And if you put the issues aside, that's probably a very solid and good knife for you to consider. The Benchmade Redoubt. This is a very interesting knife, and yet once you buy it, you'll be thinking, why did I in the world got it? There is a few things about this I want to get into, and why did I decide to get it in the first place was that it was interesting, and I have had my eye on this for a very good time, and it finally went on sale. Now the first thing about this is how heavy this thing actually is. As you can see here, it's balancing pretty good, and yet it does feel top heavy for some unknown reason. It always feels like the top over here is much more heavier than the bottom. And I don't know why, but this actually points the knife constantly down. It feels like there is a gravitation pull to this, which is really weird. Nobody really mentioned about this. Second thing is the way it closes. This is a very interesting knife by itself. Usually with Benchmade, you press this down, it closes down, but this one doesn't really close this way, and it's a little harder for you to get this to close. Not because the action itself is bad, just because it just doesn't go. It just doesn't go the way it wants to, or it should actually go. Now, I do consider this DOA on arrival, and I will let you know exactly why in a second. The first thing I want to show you is the box itself. Really interesting box that comes with this knife. Opening this up, you see the texture over here. This texture is really interesting. I kind of like the idea of the design, but not the execution of it. Next thing is, yeah, we have this all the time with Benchmade. We also have this right here as well. But what we don't have is this. This material is really weird. As you can see here, this is like a foam-like material, and then it goes ahead and tries to retain its shape when the whole entire thing is no longer pressing on here, and it's trying its best to get back to its shape, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then we have just a bunch of film right on the bottom over here too. So I'm not too much of a fan of this new whole idea, and if it did retain actually its shape, it might have been a little bit better. As you can see here, this thing is a little bit on the thick side over here, but the box itself is interesting altogether. It is an interesting box, and I do give them credit for trying something new, although I think they failed at this specific idea. Next thing is the knife itself. It is damage on arrival. Every single one of them has the same exact problem, and I'm going to be mentioning it right now, and why you should consider twice before you decide to actually buy this. The first thing is this. Everybody knows this thing about this knife. That's something I've been really curious about. I thought this was rubber and was much more soft, and it looked like it was like that. It's not. This is hard coated plastic. And to be truthful, maybe rubber would have been the better texture, but the plastic is better in some ways because the G10 material is not going to break on you, unlike the plastic, which might actually get messy after a while, and it doesn't hold in place. So it is a positive in that end, and the plus it feels good on the hand on this side over here. The biggest problem I ran into is the one nobody expected to have an issue with. It's this right here. There was absolutely no need for those gibberings to be put on this location at all. That was just the worst idea ever. So what happens is, as you put your hand here and you're holding this knife, this starts to cut right through the fingers, and it feels like a knife. It basically feels like a knife cutting right into you when you're holding a knife. Like, why would you want that? It absolutely is stupid. Now, I'm not sure why it gives you this feedback at all. What's the reason with the designer, why they decided to put those gibberings over here? And the other question is the quality control. you design the knife, you put this in your hand, and then you feel something wrong. What do? What did they do? Absolutely nothing. They just let it go, they overpriced it, they put it up for sale, as usually they do with Benchmade. And that's what they get. Now, there is the regular edge and there is the surrogate edge. Another thing with Benchmade is like one side is surrogate right out of the box. The other side is like this. It looks absolutely weird to have it looking like this. One side like this, another side like that, but that's a Benchmade thing. It is just the way they make those knives. There is no way to go around this. So this knife by itself, if you can go through those issues, maybe get this on sale, you're using it with gloves, it might not make any difference whatsoever to you. But for me, this is a deal breaker in this knife. I like a bigger knife. Sometimes I do use bigger knife for specific purposes, and I like the way it looks. I actually do like this whole entire look and the blackout edition of this knife. It's really cool. But when it comes to a few things here, it's just you have issues that cannot be fixed. The first one, the biggest one I have, is this right here. The top heavy, and on the top it constantly feels like the heaviness keeps on dragging the knife down. And the second one is this. It's just unforgiving. Those gibberings over here is just super painful. And it's not because I have weak hand or anything else. I can take some pain, but this kind of pain you don't want to take. This is just too painful when you're using it for cutting something. You just don't want this to keep on reminding you that you're getting stabbed when you actually are not. And it makes it just harder for you to use this knife for whatever purposes it is intended to be used. Altogether, this is the biggest beef I have with it. Now, on the top over here, you can see the material, and you can see how it looks like over here. It's really interesting gibbering at the top end, which I actually like. And we have a way for us to open and close this. The button pin here, the pin, as we are grabbing the pin. One hand open and close, which is pretty good. One hand open. Two finger close. Just grab it over here. Make sure you don't put your fingers right here as you're closing it, because this thing doesn't close pretty good. You have to swing it, and if you swing it, it's a guillotine. It can chop your fingers off. So be extremely careful with this knife right here. It does have a deep carry clip right in the back over here as well, and it looks pretty good. Another issue here you might actually be having is this. So this material right here, we know the problem, but this material over here is something that is plus and minus. The plus here is that it's going to keep the knife inside your pocket. It's not going to accidentally fall off. The minus is when you deploy, you try to get it out, this thing is going to get caught in whatever things you have in your jeans. It's going to be much harder for you to go ahead and deploy it out. Other than that, it comes super sharp out of the box. It is really slick looking, blackout material, really nice design, something you should consider in your EDC kit if you're considering getting this specific knife. With gloves, all those minus points I actually mentioned might not actually matter, because this knife might be excellent without this at all. So go ahead and get yours. Think about getting this knife for your EDC collection or for everyday use.